This may be Fosi Audio's most versatile device. Let's talk about it. Hello and thank you for clicking on this video. I'll be sharing my experience on another Fosi Audio device, and this is the Fosi Audio K7, which is a DAC and amplifier coming in at around $200 US. Before we dive deeper into this unit, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Melbourne Hi-Fi Audio for sending this as a loaner unit for me to test and share my experience with all of you. However, as always, all thoughts and opinions are my own and are not influenced by any parties. Inside the box, you'll be greeted by the device itself. It also comes with a USB-C to USB-C cable with a USB-A converter, a 12-volt power adapter. Thank God it's not too huge in size like the DA3s. It also comes with a Bluetooth antenna and a 3.5mm to headphone and mic splitter. The design of the unit itself carries the same identity as any other Fosi audio devices: powder-coated black metal body, a few orange accents on the volume and control dial, a small screen with a bit of an orange hue to it at the top, 5 buttons which we'll talk about later, a 4.4mm balanced output with a microphone and 3.5mm headphone jack at the front, and at the back you have the power input, USB-C, optical, coaxial, Bluetooth antenna and RCA outputs, and that's pretty much the K7. The build has a bit of an angle, so it's facing slightly towards you when you're controlling it rather than straight from the top, and overall, simple design, but you get what is expected from Fosi Audio. So just going through the 5 buttons on the device, the first button essentially turns the device on or off. Pressing it once turns it on, and pressing it and holding it will turn the device off. When the device is turned on, pressing the same button once switches between USB mode. If you want to use your microphone from the desktop setup, just make sure it's on the 1.0 mode. The second button toggles between the different inputs, so it cycles between optical, coaxial, Bluetooth and USB. Then the third button toggles the output, so it switches between headphone or the RCA output. But something to note that for the headphone output, you'll have power for the 3.5 and the 4.4mm jack, so be sure to pick what you want and adjust the setting accordingly, but not both to avoid any imbalance. The fourth button switches between bypass mode or the bass treble mode. So if it's in bypass mode, it'll basically switch off the EQ setting, and just like the other Fosi audio devices, you can do a bit of EQ on the bass and treble, but it's not as seamless as having 2 dedicated knobs for either, as with other Fosi audio devices I've talked about recently. You have to press the 5th button to toggle between treble and bass and adjust it with the right control knob. It's still relatively simple since it's just one click of a button to toggle between the two, but I like separate bass and treble knobs, but I digress. The right knob is pretty much the bass and treble control knob, but it also serves as a quick mute button if you're using a microphone, and the left knob is pretty much the volume control, and also pressing it toggles the high and low gain for this device. So just something to note: when you're toggling between inputs or settings on the fly, there is a noticeable pause, and there is an occasional delay when I'm muting or unmuting my audio, so it's not as quick or seamless. It happens from time to time and it's not all the time, so it's not a huge deal breaker, but the experience will be slightly better if it hadn't had any of those issues. Also, in terms of power, this device is sufficient to power most of your headphones. It's rated to have 2100 milliwatts to about 2.1 kilowatts at 32 ohms from the balanced output and 600 milliwatts at the single-ended output, and that's the reason why they needed a power outlet. But that's much power with this form factor is pretty impressive. But with great power comes great heat, as this device does get hot over time. So another thing to take note: you might not want this thing too close to you when you're gaming. Also, I've said it for every other Fosi audio device, but I'll say it again for this one: I love the bass and treble adjustments. At bypass mode, it's pretty clean and neutral in a way where it doesn't add any coloration to the sound, so whatever sound you're getting from your headphones, you'll be hearing them exactly as they are from the Fosi Audio K7. But the treble and bass controls give you a little bit of that V-shaped tuning to your headphones should you wish to add it. So the only other device I have that is somewhat similar to this would be the Creative Labs G8, and they are priced roughly about the same, but there are a few differences between the two. For power, the Fosi Audio K7 is simply more powerful with the help of the power source, but the G8 is powered solely by USB, so it's convenience at the sacrifice of power. Also, the Fosi Audio K7 has a 4.4mm output, which is great for power-hungry IEMs or headphones, and it has RCA outputs to be connected to speakers, but the Creative Labs G8 has optical in and out, HDMI ARC connection, 2 USB inputs, so a bit more connections. And while the Fosi Audio K7 has the treble and bass control and it's all done through the device, the Creative Labs G8 utilizes the software to give you a bit more features, and I really hope to have a dedicated video of the G8 one day, but in terms of features, the G8 just has a bit more to offer. At the end of the day, they both pretty much have the same objective, which is to be a multifunction device for your gaming and audio needs, but they both have a very different function and feature set that may specifically cater to what you want. If you're leaning towards having something with a bit more power and more dedicated to audio, it'll be the Fosi Audio K7. If you can live with lesser power and you'd like to have more connectivity and a bit more features, the Creative Labs G8 will suit you well. So in summary, in terms of sources, I think Fosi Audio is killing it. They have a device that to suit almost every scenario, and the Fosi Audio K7 might just be their most versatile device yet. It carries enough power for a lot of headphones or IAMs. It has inputs from microphone, outputs to be connected to your speaker via RCA. It can be used for your gaming, audio, and it's just a chameleon of a device, but with the caveat that transitions between inputs and outputs may not be as smooth, so that might be a deciding factor for some. However, this is all based on one man's experience, and I'm curious to know your thoughts. Have you tried the Fosi Audio K7, and what are your experiences like? Comment below, let me know, and with that all said, a huge thank you to Amplifier Audio for this opportunity, and to all of you for watching. See you in the next video.